Thank you, Vintare, for nice introduction. It's nice to hear this Adriana's research, which is also connected to Helsinki, although it's just across the bay. And but I think I'm here to talk about human-nature relations as a kind of topic. So I have been involved in this sustainability-related research mainly through kind of methodological studies of how different disciplines manage to collaborate by creating some kind of formal template. For example, modeling, like Bayesian belief network modeling is another example, and agent-based modeling. There's some other optimization models, and then you have to somehow put different insights from different disciplines, and then how this happens is what has been my focus. But somehow, after getting involved in the sustainability issues, I have been more interested in the substantive topics, and that's, I think, where the degrowth thing comes. And I also gave a short pitch in Cooper about this topic as energy humanities. But so the kind of my macro picture is that I have been reading this economic growth and environmental problem literature for some time, and it seems like there's a broad, I would say, interdisciplinary consensus about the impossibility of absolute decoupling between economic growth and environmental problems. So basically, empirically, this has been the case. So the green growth is the kind of idea that, we can actually keep doing economic growth without having environmental problems or actually reducing that. But there's no evidence for that. And the science is quite clear about this. But then when it comes to the degrowth policy, that's another sort of a problem, because we haven't seen any functioning economy that has been kind of consciously degrowing by planning. So all our societal systems are designed assuming economic growth. So, for example, like monetary systems and how the money is created, and limited liability system of corporate governance, and all these things are somehow pro-growth systems. Our pension systems. So it's a big issue, because the macro level, there are like some prominent proposals already since the 1930s to create kind of change the nature of money. Like, hey, why don't we make money devalue itself? Like, because the problem is that money is very different from the rest of the commodities. So if you can make money lose value as time goes by, then we won't have this kind of a tendency to accumulate wealth. And actually, if you look at some regional currency initiatives, some people try to do it. Like, okay, so in this town, there's this currency, but this will expire, so that it kind of encourages the use of the money, and without making people to go into this kind of accumulation. So there's this kind of proposals to change the nature of capitalism or commercial societies. But a very important question is, who will do this? Like, who will be the sovereign to initiate this kind of a transformative change at macroeconomic levels? And then main answer is that no one will be do this. So I think that's the sort of my understanding of the state of the art of economic the growth literature. So there's a green growth is a fantasy, but then planned degrowth is also fantasy, because it doesn't capture the social mechanisms. So the both are kind of delusional. So the green growth is delusional in terms of the nature of technology and the environment, but degrowth is also fantastic and delusional about the nature of the societal systems and the liberal democracy, how it works. So, and then the current kind of popular position is so-called collapse. So there's a bunch of people called collapsology people. I mean, the collapsology has been popular since 1988 by Tainter's classic studies, and I think archaeology, anthropology, those disciplines have been talking about the societal collapse. I think the Gerald Diamond's book Collapse made it very popular. I mean, that book itself is a very problematic as a scholarly work, but the topic of collapse has become very popular in some quarter of society. So in a way, it's a form of transformation, but because it's called the collapse and the involuntary degrowth and various forms, the people don't like to talk about this. But then there is some tendency to talk about these topics. And where does this human nature relation topic come in? And I think this has been discussed as one of the deep leverage points. So some of you might be familiar with this leverage point framework by, what's her name again? I can't remember. The Meadows leverage point. Yes, but the thing is that it's not really theoretically well or empirically well-founded theory. So when people say that value change or mindset change is a very fundamental deep leverage point, probably we don't mean anything more than just saying that since we can't change other things like a tax and incentive change is not possible because no one has the incentive to change incentives. So then we reach this conclusion that we have to change our values. But then we really don't know how this happens or how this can be initiated. But I guess the modern human kind of cosmology is one of the inspirations that come from other societies like indigenous societies and societies that exist in the past. And then presumably those cosmology is more sustainable. So that's, I guess, where many people are interested in this. But then whenever you try to translate this into financial schemes of something, then there's no concrete way. So we end up talking about this more value-focused topics. And then I'm at the moment interested in animism and the different forms of animisms. And of course, there was old studies about. By the way, Gintare, how many times do I have minutes? Do I have? I forgot to count.
You have another time. It's 5 minutes.
5 minutes, very good.
Yeah.
So I have 5 minutes to talk about animisms. So animism is, I don't know what kind of association you have with the animisms, but it's I think in anthropology it's divided into old animism and the new animism. So the old animism is the idea that colonial Westerners went to exotic places and then saw that people are doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then they try to understand what's on their mind. So the assumption is that all sorts of beliefs seem to be false, but then there must be some function. So it's a kind of functional analysis of false beliefs. And some people try to explain religion in this way as well. And then there's a new animism, which comes from more 21st century anthropology. And they are trying to say, look, actually, maybe they are right. So, or maybe we don't have to kind of start from the premise that those animistic beliefs about spirits and those things are false. So there's very lively discussion in anthropology, and I think this type of animistic animism literature is very important for the modern human discussions. And then my kind of I haven't written so much about it yet, but I'd like to work on this question of animism in a more general form. And the rough idea is that this instead of kind of having this new animism, old animism dichotomy, we might be able to say something along the line of Bruno Latour's point that we have never been modern. So in a way, I would like to say like we have never been unanimistic. So in a way, there are different ways of understanding animism, but there must be a way to say that our society is also deeply animistic in some way. And so this is an example from a colleague of mine. But whenever there's some politically contested stuff happens around statues. In Tallinn, for example, some years ago, there was a big issue about moving this statue of the Soviet soldiers to another location, and then there was a riots and stuff. So we kind of do this kind of stuff around just a chunk of metal. So I think there's something, and then I'm not sure if it's just we can simply say, well, that's just a symbol. But then how the symbol works, and of course, bears are a symbol for Arctic people as well. So I'm kind of curious about this animistic element of the way our own this presumably scientific people's mind works in a fundamentally same way. So this is some anthropologists have this take on this contemporary cosmology and stuff. So instead of saying like, well, we have been making a mistake since Descartes and Newton, and we have to go back to some kind of more holistic cosmology, I'd like to say, hey, actually, if you carefully look at what we ourselves do, there's something very strange about what we do. So I think this might be a more promising way to overcome the current predicament, rather than saying like making this kind of false dichotomy between dualism of Cartesian framework, and we all belong to that. So we need to have some kind of a paradigm shift and then moved toward more holistic modern human. So in this way, there has some maybe way to connect this to the leverage point argument is to say that, well, maybe the leverage point is not like a paradigm shift, but more like understanding our own paradigm slightly better and a different way. And then there might be a chance for us to change our behavior from there. So this is not to say that we can avoid collapse. So this is completely compatible with the collapsologist thesis, is that the involuntary societal unraveling is inevitable, but we don't have to kind of depend on this, whether or not our approach succeeds, and that's another contested issue in current framework. Like if you're not consequentialist, why are you doing that? And then I think here comes some kind of a motivational, emotional questions, and then I'm kind of my take is that we do things that we enjoy. So I think the instead of trying to do something to save the world, we are trying to do something that really is important for us. And I think this might be the deepest leverage point. And then I have no idea how this works because I don't have a theory of change. But maybe thinking more deeply about our own animistic roots might be one of them. So that's all I can say at this moment. So it's not well worked out, but thank you for listening.